On the grid and ready for race 1, round 2 in the Viking Group Australian Superbike Championship at Symmons Plains Raceway. And Glenn Allerton slowly but surely taking his spot on the front row of the grid. 12 bikes here for this round. It's a field of quality, not quite quantity. We've run through the top 8 from Superpole. Just outside, Ben Henry from WA is 9th. The injured Chris McLaren, we'll cover that throughout the course of the show. He starts from 10th, Cole Oldendale 11th, and Adam Christie, the lone South Australian, on board the Honda, rounds out the top 12. Often racing at Symmons Plains here in Tasmania. Wayne Maxwell from pole, he will lead us into turn 1, and Jamie Stouffer, even though he was disappointing a little bit, Kev, in Super Pole and dropped back to 4th on the grid, he's quickly back up to 2nd.
Yeah, good off the line and floated in through the first corner, right on his teammate's tail. Maxwell down into the hard braking area, looking up the inside early on. Can't do it, Maxwell. Real hard and deep out wide under brakes. Everybody following suit in there, nice and tight. Herfoss just a little bit wide right at the apex. Stouffer hard after Maxwell.
This run back down from the hairpin through the right-hand sweeper. The Honda's leading the way, of course. They need the points because they're struggling in the championship. Allerton down the inside for 2nd spot. This BMW is starting strongly.
And Stouffer out of the seat a little bit, and now it's Allerton on Maxwell. He is on an absolute charge. Glenn Allerton on the beamer, skating in over that bump. Real tricky, tight part of the section. Easy to make a mistake, but necessary to flow through that whole section until the start of this straight right here. And the power of the BMW, can he get, looks like he got a good drive on Maxwell there. Will he pop out under brakes? Looking for it, hard on the brakes, but on the inside, Maxwell so quick for so long on the outside before his real wide entry into Honda hairpin.
Off the exit, down the back straight. Remember that the last time we were here was November in 2010, and the weather was completely different. It poured with rain. Great conditions today, but Allerton on board the BMW looking for the lead from Wayne Maxwell, and he takes it at the end of the back straight. This bike looks so good so early, but Maxwell back down the inside. Good stuff.
Yeah, Maxwell chopped back to the inside. Allerton trying to get the drive down the start straight, and under brakes gets him back. So these guys are all over each other. You can see there, Maxwell chopped it back and drove it straight up the inside between the two apexes. Allerton picked it up and turned it and fired it out and still leads down the long straight to the hairpin.
Great shot on the Carlton Dry replay. The BMW just trying to get away from the pair of Hondas.
Now it's Stouffer, right up and into, almost into the back of Glenn Allerton, passed by his teammate as well. So Stouffer really got in there, just way too hot, bit too eager this early in the race, but still with his teammate. Now Allerton's gapped him a bit with that mistake.
Remember too that the Team Honda racing riders have got some different parts to their bikes this year. They're running a Motec electronic system for the very first time. They're going their own path in shock development, so it really is a process of ongoing development for them. And look at Maxwell just getting it slightly sideways on the run back to the pit straight, which is not really a straight, is it? It's really a pit sweeper.
Yeah, you just switch basically from the long left into the tight entry of the rights. But Maxwell's on the hunt now, dragging Stouffer with him. And Troy Herfoss in 4th from his teammate Josh Waters on the Suzuki's in 5th. So Troy Herfoss really just only off the back of these guys, and not much in that. So he's almost in a podium position there early on in the race. Allerton still with that slight gap. Maxwell and Stouffer need to work together on this one to hunt the BMW rider down.
On board with the 3rd place Honda of the former champ Jamie Stouffer. Back towards the pit straight. Okay, pit sweeper, I'll get it right eventually. Herfoss 4th, Waters is next. 5 down in this BMW, looks strong again.
Yeah, you see Allerton just skating it over the backside of the hump on the way into that right hand. A real rhythm section, that just got to be in exactly the right place, pointed the right direction, and at a precise time on top of that, which makes it very tricky, so easy to make a mistake. And they're all doing it right so far, but as the race wears down, we'll see who's got the concentration.
Remember too that in Superbike racing, there's a control Dunlop tyre. It's an N-Spec control tyre for 2011, and it's debuting here this weekend. There was a dual compound system in play at round 1 down at Phillip Island, which of course supported the World Superbike Championship. And we'll see the Superbikes racing again with the V8 supercars throughout the course of this year, but Glenn Allerton has his nose in front on board this BMW. He's got a handy championship margin, and the two Hondas at the moment, when you look at the points table, are not even close to this BMW.
No, Maxwell's bad round at Phillip Island played a major part in that. They've dropped Herfoss a little bit in fourth. Waters still trying pretty hard to catch his teammate, in fact, but certainly Maxwell has chased Allerton down, and there's really nothing in that for the remaining laps now. And Allerton will be getting that information on his pit board and trying to dig in even harder just to create that little bit of a buffer, because he knows how dangerous Maxwell and Jamie Stover, for that matter, are when they're right on your hammer.
We talked about the slipstream in round one at Phillip Island. It's such a big part down at the island, but what about here at Symmons Plains? A lot of areas where the bikes are at full throttle and a lot of holes being punched in the air that you can follow through with.
Yeah, there's a bit of that goes on, but you haven't really got the time like you had at Phillip Island to use it to a good effect. It's real short and sharp at the end of the next straight down into the really tight Honda hairpin, and in through the sweeper. That becomes a bit of drafting on the way into it, but then it's all up to the rider on his pick of line and whether he enters wide or tight into the long left-hand. And Maxwell really high with the rear wheel in the air under brakes. They're trying hard, and that's why, because he was trying to go with Allerton, who outbraked himself and drops back to third position. Now it's teammate after teammate. Let's have a look at that again. You see Maxwell's wheel there. Allerton just isn't going to get anywhere near the apex, and the two Hondas rip around the inside of him.
Carlton Dry replay capturing it all. So Maxwell back to the lead, Stowe for second, but the Suzuki boys are just starting to play themselves in.
Yeah, a couple of mistakes. That'll lose time off the total race time, which certainly has allowed. Look at Waters. He's passed his teammate Herfoss and jumped up into fourth place and right on Glenn Allerton on the BMW. Maxwell still leading from Stouffer, so it's the Honda pair on board now with Stouffer down this straight, and you can see it's got a bit of a kink at the end of it, just as you set up really hard. The braking's actually straight line. It's just that little bit of a kink beforehand which can play havoc. Allerton again wide and across. Waters up into third. Now the drag race out of the hairpin.
So the former champ through to third. Of course, last weekend was in action at the World Superbike Championship. A great experience. He'll get another chance later in the year in the United States, but our own Ken Wotton caught up with Josh earlier in the weekend to talk about last weekend.
Josh, big change. 1 minute you're out playing with the big boys in the World Superbikes at Phillip Island. Now back in the Aussie Superbikes. I got to ask, the difference in the bikes?
Yeah, night and day. The bikes were extremely different, and also the tyres were extremely different. So things aren't going how I was planning to this weekend. I love Symmons Plains circuit, and I just really need to keep my head down, and hopefully tomorrow I can have two good races.
So even though they were both Suzuki GSX R1000s and probably similar type horsepower, totally different bikes to ride.
Yeah, completely different. Just there's so many things that are different on the bike. So, but it's great to be back on my Australian bike, and like I said just before, I really look forward to tomorrow's races.
What about Phillip Island? You're out there on the grid and you're surrounded by Max Biaggi, Carlos Checa, names that when you were growing up were probably posters on your wall. Was it nervous? Was it daunting?
Yeah, for sure. It was unbelievable feeling sitting on the grid, and I look forward and I'm like, there's Biaggi. Has anyone got a camera? I wanted a photo with him. I look behind and there's Noriyuki Haga. I'm ahead of him. I qualified really good, but it was an awesome experience, and I really appreciated the opportunity that Suzuki and Yoshimura gave me.
I guess it points out also just how competitive our national series is. You said you're struggling here at Symmons Plains just to get on the pace, even though you know your way around here and you know this bike.
Yeah, the Australian Championship is an extremely high level, so that's great. It just showed last weekend, I was able to qualify and be around the top 10, so it shows how good our national championship really is.
And that interview was recorded yesterday on a day where he actually thought, Kev, holy hell, what's going on? I'm going to get absolutely smashed this weekend, but he's got himself back into the game here, and he's going with the leaders.
Yeah, he's working it out lap by lap, and as he said, the different tyres alone, just the character, the personality of the tyres, what feedback it gives you on the bike between the Pirellis that he was on last weekend for the World Superbike Championship and these N-Tech Dunlops. Totally different character, and just takes a while to get used to the nth degree that you have to push to keep up with. You know, guys like Allerton, Troy Herfoss there coming up on him up the inside. Can he pull it off? And the two guys on the Hondas. So that's what he's at, and he's back towards the front on the pace. Can he run them down in the remaining laps? On board you can see there Jamie Stover through the fast sweeper, and he's right on his hammer.
And that was Herfoss who managed to get by Glenn Allerton for 4th place. So the BMW started really strongly, got its way to the front, has faded though, it's back to 5th.
He's got some problems with something, possibly a bit of suspension fade, or Glenn just not got his head in the right spot in this race 1.
Well, remember, we saw him run wide down at the hairpin on 2 or 3 consecutive laps, so can't help but think that maybe there's some form of maybe a brake issue with this bike. Let's see how it goes for this second half of the race, and if he can recover, if it starts to come back, or if indeed if it fades further.
Yeah, maybe having a rest to just settle the problem, or ride around the problem, get used to it. He may have changed line somewhere. We'll keep a bit of an eye out for that, but braking is massively hard into that hairpin. One of the hardest braking areas in the country, and then out the end of this fast right-hand sweeper into the double left. It's pretty hard on the brakes, but not for very long there.
It's a short track in terms of distance and of lap time as well, but there's no real place that you get a rest because there's no real proper actual straight.
No, it's a very intense track. That's the thing about it. Real tight and twisty in through this section. You can see over that hump, real tricky there. You've got to be totally on your game, and then through that first left-hander, back for the double apex, and then the quick flick right. See, that's all important. It's millimetre by millimetre. It's not, you know, big open wide flowing Phillip Island like they were at last weekend. Now it's like racing around a go-kart track. No offence to Symmons Plains.
And nothing wrong with go-kart tracks either. Here's Robbie Bugden with Ben Attard just in behind on board the Aprilia, a bit further back in the pack from the leaders. Good scrap here. It's just become a little spaced out on this run down through the back straight. Of course, Robbie Bugden riding the Mack trucks back. Satellite Suzuki, and Ben Attard having a look. That's a deep move, but gets it done.
Double dipped on the way in, a little bit wide. Bugden underneath him between the apexes, hard on the gas, gets it turned. Out for the short run down to the first right-hander, over the hump, got the move made. Attard looked like he was going to have a look up the inside of the tight left there for a moment, but thinks better of it. Back through the double hander, you can see there Attard just had a couple of goes on the way in. Bugden was smart enough to read his mind, pull it in on the curb, run it up the inside before the second apex, and head on out of there with the lead back.
Craig Coxell just behind them on board bike 11. This is a good little scrap, backwards and forwards. The Suzuki gets a little bit of a run from the hairpin, but the Aprilia tucks in for this long run. That's Craig Coxell just back behind on bike 11, not too far away. Now, does Attard try the same move again?
Looking like it down the inside again. Will he be smart enough to block Bugden out this time? Yes, he's done it. So Bugden just sat up a little bit there, knew what Attard was up to. Coxell's watching all this go on and closing all the time. And he'll be up for a fight. And it's a great track for doing the chasing around here at Symmons Plains. You can really pull something out of the hat when you're trying to track the guy in front down.
You see the bus stop section there that really is there to straighten the bike riders out before the run down this straight towards the hairpin, rather than as the cars take the right-hand sweeper, which is blind, and obviously there's a guardrail to the left. It just straightens it up and makes it a bit safer.
Yeah, it makes it a lot safer, and you know, the cars don't care. They just take them back to the pits and fix them. But it's a bit different when a rider hits the fence without a car around him.
Closing in here, Craig Coxell on board the Honda, started from position 8. It's been pretty much his position for the weekend so far. Of course, taking over on board this bike and in this team from Wayne Maxwell, who moved to the Paul Freerun Team Honda racing operation in the off-season.
Bugden and Coxell trying to go with Attard now. Attard looks like he's got the acid on Bugden a little bit, so Bugden's got something else to worry about, and he'll know that by reading his pit board that lap round, that Coxell is well and truly almost on his back wheel.
We've seen the Aprilia be so strong in the World Championship with the likes of Max Biaggi, but obviously there's only one of them running in the Australian Championship. Is it more a case of strength in numbers in anyone who's using a different type of bike other than what have become the norm in terms of Honda and Suzuki.
Yeah, it can work together if they do with development. It definitely is an advantage, and you know, it's got its opposite advantages in the sense that, you know, no one else knows what you're up to because you're the only one with that machine in the field. Maxwell's still leading from his teammate Stouffer, and Waters has definitely got him hunted down. May well be just waiting for a time to strike. You'd have to say that Stouffer, lap rider, getting well and truly out of the way there, having a look over the shoulder to make sure he doesn't annoy any of the lead riders and affect the lead group. Stouffer up the inside into the hairpin, hard under brakes, not too hard, a little bit too hard. Oh, lost the front, nearly off it at the hairpin. Maxwell kept it together, drove back out the outside. Waters down the outside of both of them. So now Josh Waters leads into the sweeper.
He's getting back into the grip of Aussie Superbike racing. Carlton Dry replay. Here's the run to the hairpin. Maxwell with the foot out, got the rear dancing. Stouffer had the move done. Came off the turn, nearly came off. But the big winner is Waters, straight down the outside to the lead.
Yeah, you could see Jamie Stouffer lost the front there. The right-hand foot flicked off the foot peg and managed to stay on it and still in third place.
So, in the closing laps, and it's turned into a fight between the former champ for Team Suzuki and the pair of Hondas. Just got a little bit of a margin back to Troy Herfoss, who's hanging with them, and Glenn Allerton, who hasn't drifted too far away. So whatever that problem is with the BMW, it can't be too major.
No, he's definitely gone with the pace over race distance. Just had to settle down there for a little while through the mid part of the race and get ready for another attack. You can see how hard Stouffer's trying out of the hairpin to certainly go with Maxwell, maybe get second place, while Waters gets a break on both of them.
The front wheel was lifting all the way down the back straight, and that allowed Herfoss to lunge through for third. And look at Allerton on the fight back trail here, trying to squeeze up the inside. He'll be to our left somewhere.
If he can get it done, he'll poke his head in the left. No, thinks better of it. Yes, he's done it. Waited till fairly late now into the right-hander. So Allerton up into fourth. What can he do from here on in? Right on Herfoss's tail now.
What a great mixture of bikes. So 3 different types of bike in the top 5. They've kicked clear of the rest of the field. BMW, Suzuki and Honda, but it's Stouffer who goes back to the tail of the leading group and just trying to get that run off the hairpin. Last lap, the front wheel was jumping up and down all the way down this straight, and that's why he lost heaps of time, but Waters has been able to kick clear.
He's just settled down now and settling into those Dunlops and the different Aussie spec superbike. Josh Waters, now it's Maxwell back on his tail, so it's going to be a hell of a last lap. Troy Herfoss trying to get Glenn Allerton. Now it's Maxwell going for the drive down the outside, not there. Still Waters leads, Allerton in third place.
And not long left to go. 2.4 kilometres of racing on this final lap in the opening race of the Viking Group Australian Superbike Championship here at Symmons Plains. Can Maxwell find something special? Not here at the hairpin. He needs to focus on the drive off this slow turn, but I don't think he's going to be close enough.
Doesn't look like, looks like Waters has got it sorted out. We'll see how they go. They've all got to stay up yet. Fairly tight bunch of 5 riders really. Stouffer bringing up the rear behind Troy Herfoss in fourth. So can Josh Waters keep it together through the lefts? Allerton a bit tighter on the line there, looking for second place, but couldn't do it. Josh Waters leads them out of the last turn. Maxwell right on it.
This is going to be tight to the line, but welcome back, Josh Waters. He takes a win at Symmons Plains by a narrow margin in the end. It was 0.04 of a second to our poleman Wayne Maxwell. Recapping the results, Glenn Allerton fought back to third. So 3 different bikes in the top 3 positions. Herfoss fourth from Stouffer, Ben Attard 6th, Robbie Bugden 7th, and Craig Coxall rounded out the top 8. And just outside the top 8, great ride too from Chris McLaren, despite injury, takes P9.
Glenn, we saw you drop back to 5th place there. I heard the conversation you had with your crew. It's amazing that you were able to come back to 3rd place on that last lap. That was a sensationally stunning ride. Well done.
Yeah, I lost an absolute mountain of ground there in the middle of the race, and I was having brake fade problems, and I was actually, my fault, I was winding the adjuster the wrong way, so the lever was getting further and further into the bars, and I was like, if it goes any further, I'm going to have to stop. But I figured out I was winding it the wrong way, and I wound some lever out of it, so I had some brakes there, and then I was just on a mission in the last couple of laps to get to the front. And, you know, one more lap, I think I'd have did it.
Look, you know, we're struggling a little bit on acceleration off the slow turns compared to the other guys, but we're hanging in there on the front, you know, and the guys at Team Honda Racing have been working really hard with the setup, and we're slowly getting there. And I sort of had the race under control, but Jamie ran me wide at the hairpin, and then that was it, game over.
This weekend hasn't been easy so far, so I didn't expect to be here right now, but huge thank you to the team. Hayden Joyce, my mechanic's been fantastic all weekend, and yeah, it was great.